Hi, this is Neil Walters, and today I've got a guest. We're going to start doing some shows where I try to interview some other people, and this is Mr. Art Pizarro.
How you doing?
And tell us your channel again. Well,
My name is Ark Pizarro. My channel is the same name. I have a podcast called Advancing Possibilities, and I have a book by the same title. So you can search me either way. You'll probably pop up.
all right, your book's on Amazon.
Yes.
Oh, cool. I did an SEO book once, but
Did you?
never really pushed it very hard.
Yeah. Mine is more of a getting into business online for beginners type of book. It has a big piece of mindset for people because I find, especially in my own journey, a big limiting factor was limiting beliefs. And so when I finally figured that out, I was like, I need to share this with others because business isn't as hard as people purport it to be. It's mostly a head game, and once you get that part figured out, everything else is kind of technical, a lot easier. Nowadays, back in the day, not so much. You didn't have YouTube, but nowadays it's like, what can't you figure out? So
Now, did I hear a rumor that you and your wife are actually both doctors as well
yes, we're both
from,
physicians
from the past life?
in a past life. Yeah, we were recovering physicians,
And
and
I and I don't know if my viewers know, I actually went to law school and was a lawyer for a while, so we could call this interview former lawyer interviews former
former
doctor,
professionals interview.
and hopefully we're both future crypto millionaires,
There
right?
you go. There you go. Yeah, we studied in my wife's country, Dominican Republic, and then she practiced there as an internist, as an internal medicine specialist for about 10 years. I was a general MD. I was interested in surgery, and then we had a bunch of kids. And she said, you're not going to be home if you follow that path. And it's true, they sacrifice a lot, surgeons. So I decided, you know what, I'll just be a stay-at-home dad. I'll do some blogging, some writing, whatever. And that evolved into me learning about SEO. SEO evolved into digital marketing. Then I was like, you know what? I'm doing this for a bunch of churches and ministers and things like that, and they're having good results. Maybe I can do this for businesses. And so I started doing it for clients, and I just went down that path. It's been like 12, 15 years now. It's been a long time.
Oh, so you did SEO too, huh?
I did SEO for a long time.
That's search engine optimization. If you're
Yeah,
listening,
search engine optimization. That was my life for a very long time.
where did you study that from or with?
Um, it was a lot of self-study, and then I think I took a big step forward with a group called OMG.
Me too. I was gonna.
Really? You were in OMG? Yeah,
Yeah, I was a
OMG
member
was
2 or 3 years with them, and then I finally thought, well, I think we've learned everything they have to show us a
exactly.
while. I mean, now
Yeah.
it might be getting rusty. Yeah, I like that group.
Yeah, they were really good, and I went to a conference
You there
for
when
Alex
Cotton?
Becker.
Were
Cotton
you there when
Grammar.
Cotton was in
Yeah,
it?
I was there when Cotton Grammar got there right around the time that I signed up. And so he was like the hot thing for quite a while. Very, very impressive guy. And then Alex Becker gave me some free tickets to a conference out in Vegas. And I was like, I don't know if I want to go to this conference, but I thought he was going to be there because he was like, I'm going to be at this conference speaking for what's this guy's name? Chris Record, I believe his name is. And he had an amazing conference, the guy. Alex Becker never showed up, but there were all these people talking about ecom, right? And I had never really considered ecom. And so when I left there, I was like, I'm gonna have to try my hand at this ecom thing, because once you know digital marketing, once you know email, once you know SEO, once you know, PPC, pay-per-click advertising, once you have those concepts down, they're not as hard as people purport them to be. I always tell my kids, people make themselves sound fancier than they are, right? Things usually aren't as hard as people try and make it seem. And so I went home and I jumped on Shopify, my bad. And I tried my hand at ecom, and in like 6 months, our business was doing like six figures. So I was like, this isn't so bad. And then
Do you still run that today, or
no, what happened was we were selling, my wife is a very famous crochet artist, I guess, famous in that circle, in that sub niche. So she does like a lot of crochet for dolls, for these very expensive dolls, for dolls collectors. And so she'll make a crochet sweater, and it's like $60, right? And it's this little thing that takes her like an hour to make or something. And so we were like, we should do like crochet tools. There's all these people out here in the world who need crochet tools, like the needles, the hooks, whatever. And we started doing that, but we were selling them to Latin Americans. And so business was booming. But what we didn't know was that it was a seasonal business, right? And so we're spending like 2 grand a week on Facebook ads. And all of a sudden one day our sales just went to zero. And I'm like, what is happening? And I thought I got maybe banned from Facebook or something. I go in, my account is fine. And it just turns out that in Latin America, their seasons are opposite ours. So they, celebrate winter when we're in the summer and vice versa. So when they hit summertime, everybody's out of the house. They're not doing crochet anymore. And so it was like, trickling sales, but it basically killed our business because we didn't know what we were doing in regards to the business being seasonal. And so at that point, we had so much invested that we were like, we're going to have to, shut this down, or we're just going to keep losing crazy money, And we didn't know when it would end because we didn't really understand what was happening. And it was months later that a friend of mine who had lived in Latin America, he told me, I was explaining to him what happened with the business. And he was like, oh yeah, that's because, they go on vacation in the summertime. They don't stay at home at all. I'm like, what? And I was like, that's why my business died, And I told my wife recently, I'm like, if we had just sat it out for 6 months and waited for the next winter for them, things would have just picked up all over again, So you live and learn. And after that, I had a big distaste for e-com, obviously, right? There's a lot to the fulfillment. I had a number of employees, and it was just a really good learning experience. But at the same time, at that end point, it was painful. So we kind of shied away from it for a while. And now we're looking to get back into that because, just so many people do well with it. And I'm like, we already have a ton of experience that beginners don't have. And you have all these beginners getting in and making a bunch of money. You just have to pick the right product and know that it's not a seasonal product, And so, yeah, that's what happened with our store. So it was one of those win and lose type of situations.
I used to sell foreign language stuff, mostly Pimsleur, back in 2001, 2002,
Uh-huh.
that range. And that was still
Uh-huh.
the world. That was still the world where people were switching from cassette tapes to CDs.
Exactly. Those are
and I
CD days.
and I think MP3s kind of changed that business quite a bit. So
Okay. Okay.
some things come and go, right?
Yeah, yeah. Retail, it's a really good business, but you do have to have the experience. You need the experience to be able to survive it because it's competitive and it has, like any business, it's going to throw you curveballs. And the question is, can you survive them?
It's amazing. I remember one customer I was thinking about the other day. He called on the phone to talk to me and make sure it was legit and stuff. But he
Mhm.
ordered, like Pimsleur has levels 1, 2, and 3. He ordered
Mhm.
3 levels for like 5 languages, like a $3,000 order.
Okay.
He was like retiring and he wanted to learn languages, so
Okay.
he just
That's
bought it
cool.
all. And
Oh, he did. He bought it all.
yeah,
Nice.
yeah. So about crypto, when did you get into that and how?
So my crypto journey is a funny one. I have a friend. His name is Ettore. He's a young man in Dominican Republic. So while we were over there, once I had decided that I wasn't going to do surgery, um, I went home to the United States, to New York, and I worked in nuclear cardiology for a while. And I was assistant to Dr. Rubin, who's one of the guys who invented the pacemaker. So that was a really good experience. And then I was out there for about a year, and I realized, financially, I'm great. Like I have everything I want, but my family's not with me. And at the time, we didn't realize it, but my wife's immigration papers had been lost in the system. And so I was like, it's been a year. My kids are small. I don't want to live out here by myself. Money doesn't mean anything if you don't have who to share it with. So I went back. And when I go back, I'm like, I don't really have any purpose here. I'm doing like this SEO stuff, but this isn't like the end all be all. And so at the time, I was a Christian, and I just was like, you know what? I'm gonna just help out in some local churches, see if I can, lend a hand. And so through a friend, I met a pastor, and through him, I met a bunch of people and started like helping them with stuff. And what it ended up happening was that when we finally, hold on a second, uh, remind me of the question again, because I'm gonna go off on a journey. And
Oh, just how you got involved in cryptos, basically.
yeah, okay. So through the churches, I met Ettore, and then he was like this. He literally lived in a home with a dirt floor. So he had a shack, like a little shanty home, and his mother and him were very involved in the church, and he would like sing in the choir and all this kind of stuff. And he was telling me, one day, there's this thing. It's called Bitcoin, and I bought some. Right. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, it's this digital money in the future. This is the future. There's not going to be any dollars. There's just going to be money, in digital format. And I'm sitting there going, this is like so crazy. I'm like, after that, you need to focus on things that are real, dude. Like, stop doing stuff that sounds like, nonsense. And he just kept on. He was just like, no, I'm telling you, Bitcoin, Bitcoin, Bitcoin. This is like 2011, right?
Oh,
Super early, super early. And he's like, I'm telling you, this is the future, Ark. This is the future. And I'm like, okay, if you say so. And then I went up and I gave him a job, in my agency. We were doing SEO work. He knew a little bit of web design and stuff like that. And I trained him up on stuff. And then he just kept on. He's like, I got more Bitcoin, 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 Bitcoin. And so I was like, all right, let me read this, because this kid is like passionate about this. And I go and I start reading about it, and I'm reading about these miners in China, and they've got all these mining rigs, and they're making like 500 Bitcoin a day. But at the time, Bitcoin is worthless. I don't even know what it was worth, like maybe 6 cents or something. It was ridiculously worthless. And it looked so fringe. And so I told my wife, you know what? Just on the outside chance that this is actually a thing, I think I'm going to get one of these mining rigs. I'm going to set up a computer, because it wasn't even like ASIC mining rigs like you have today. It was just, you could do it on your own computer, you know? So I was like, I'm going to set up a box and just do this. And I sat down and I was doing some calculations, and I was like, based on what this thing is worth, all I'm going to be doing is losing money every month in my electricity bill. I'm not going to, plus the expense of building a machine just for this. Like, I'm not going to make any money. I'm not going to make any money off of this. Why would I do this? It doesn't make any sense. So I'm looking at like a sunk cost of about $600-700 plus like another 150 a month or something like that. And I was like, nah, I'm not going to do it. It doesn't make any sense to me, And after it was like, Ark, you have to do it. You have to do it. And I was like, nah, it just doesn't make any sense financially, And so sure enough, I did it. Then about 2 or 3 years later, right, I'd left Dominican Republic. I'm talking with him on the phone. I'm like, so what are you doing? He's like, no, I'm here. I'm still mining. I'm mining Dogecoin now. And I'm like, Dogecoin? And he's like, yeah, I have about 55,000 Dogecoin. And I'm like, okay, let me go look at this. And so I look at it, and it's like 8 zeros to the right, And I'm like, that thing is absolutely worthless. What are you talking about? He's like, you'll see, it's going to be worth something one day. And I'm like, okay, good luck to you, kind of thing. And that was it as far as crypto went. Till
who
like,
was telling him? Where was he getting his data from?
I really couldn't tell you. I don't know where he got this information from, but it wasn't like the only thing. He was like he would do all these survey sites. He would do anything he could find online to like put scratch together. He would do that. So this was just another thing as far as I was concerned. It wasn't
How did he turn out today?
So when Dogecoin had its pump, he was, the last time we spoke prior to like the huge Bitcoin pumps, he was working someplace, and he had his Bitcoin miner at his job running off of the corporation's electricity.
Oh,
Right. And he had like hundreds of thousands of Dogecoin. He had just mined all this Dogecoin. And so as far as I know now, he's like tens of millionaire, and everyone I speak with, because I contacted him on Facebook, because I have friends in Dominican Republic who are asking me like, Art, can you help us do crypto? But over there, they have very strict laws about buying. So they can only do it through Binance, through a third party. So in other words, they can set up their Binance account, but they can't do any transactions. So they would have to have someone else, like in the United States, do the transactions for them, something like that. It's very complicated. And so I reached out to him to say, hey, Anthony, I know you're an expert in this. How is it that you're doing it? And he was like, oh, jump on WhatsApp. Let's talk. It's so good to hear from you, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, I don't really use WhatsApp. I try to avoid the Facebook products since they changed their terms of agreement, in 2021. And they basically said they can take anything on your devices and it's theirs. They can like copy it and stuff. I was like, I'm good, And so I haven't spoken with him directly, but everyone that knows him that I know have all said, yeah, Hector is like super rich, like he's a multimillionaire. And I was just like, wow, that is so crazy, So around 2017, there was like the pump, and right around that time, I started saying, you know what, Hector was onto something. I completely missed the boat. Let me start taking this more seriously. And so I started studying it, started teaching it to my kids. Financial literacy became very important to me at that time. I've always been like into finance and real estate and things like that. But it was really like 2017 when my mind shifted, and I'm like, I think I'm gonna really dedicate myself to doing this well for my children, to make sure that they don't just wander around chasing shiny objects like I did for so long, but instead are focused and know exactly what to do at a young age. And so in 2017, that's when I bought into Cardano. I bought Theta. I bought Stellar, and a couple of other projects. I think the guy that I listened to the most at the time was called Crypto Crow. Have you ever heard of Crypto Crow? He's on YouTube. He's been around for quite a while, and he was very very bullish on Cardano for a long time. And I'm thankful that I listened to him, because when Cardano pumped recently to whatever it was, 250 more or less, I did very well with that because I had accumulated a nice little bag of Cardano, knowing that when their smart contracts came out, it would the news of that would take the price to a nice place. And so so I did well with Cardano, and since then, I've been just creating content, trying to educate people and say, look, even if you don't believe in this technology, even if you think that this is a scam like the major media would have you believe, up until about 6 months ago, that was still the narrative. It's not, you know what I mean? Anything that you can hedge inflation with, anything that you can stop your money from losing its value day to day, is going to be worth something in the future. And so there's a ton of projects available, and you can study them, and you can do chart analysis and all that kind of stuff. But for the average person who doesn't understand these things, just knowing that you can buy an asset that is currently at one price and in the future will probably be 10x, it's a smart play, even if you only do it with like 10% of your income, And so I always tell people, like, look, just take $5. And I know it sounds so cliche, the whole $5 a day thing. But the reality is that $5 a day is 1,800 a year, And if you're buying
Just
18,
quit Starbucks, right?
quit
Just quit
Starbucks,
Starbucks.
right? Just make coffee at home, and or just avoid two tolls a day, and drive local a little bit. I don't know, but the point being is, if you can do this, 1,800 a year adds up. You know what I mean? Over a 10-year period, you've now invested $18,000 into Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever other blue chip, and you're gonna see a nice return on that. So why not? And so, especially when it's disposable income, right? You're not even $5 a day. You're not seriously investing. You're just playing around. And I tell people, if you want to be serious about it, take 10% of your income every single week and put it towards an asset that's going to grow. Even if you do stable coins, like you can do stable coins, you buy some UST, right, which is Luna's stable coin, and you put that on the Anchor protocol. They'll pay you 20% a year. No
Hey,
bank, no bank is giving you 20% a year. No bank is giving you 2% a year in the world. It's just not. So that adds up. That compounds over time. That becomes a lot of money. And I think that it sounds strange to say that we're early because there are so many people now using crypto, but the reality is that we haven't hit the crypto peak where it becomes mainstream. And those of us who are in the crypto area, the crypto space, think that that's the case, but it's not, because when social media really actually blew up, it's when they hit 1 billion users. The same thing with the internet. The internet actually blew up when it hit 1 billion users. And in crypto, we're at like 250 million users worldwide. So we still have a couple years to go before we hit 1 billion users. And then everybody from their phone is paying for the stuff at the checkout line at the supermarket. You know what I mean? That's when you'll know we're actually mainstream. When your average consumer who doesn't understand crypto swipes their phone at the Walmart checkout line and paid with some type of digital currency. It may be, a central bank digital currency, or, it may be some Walmart coin, who knows? But the point is, we're not there. And when we get there, then you'll know, okay, now we're mainstream, and I believe at that time, we'll see all this Wild West gains that people realize go away for the most part. And it'll be it'll I think it'll always be more volatile and more fruitful than the stock market, but it'll be a lot dramatically less than what it is today. I always look to the I think it was Joe Kennedy. I think Joe Kennedy, if I'm not mistaken, or was it it was either one of the Kennedy grandfathers or the Bush grandfathers, but basically this guy was doing the same thing people do today with crypto, and they're making these dramatic gains doing all sorts of weird stuff that if you do it with stocks, you're going to jail, right? So like if you shill a stock, you're going to jail. If Elon Musk comes out and says, I think Tesla is the greatest thing ever, it's going to pump tomorrow. That guy's going to court,
Because he owns the company. That's the reason, right?
Well, even if he's just a person, like you or me, if we go out there and we start talking about Tesla and saying, "Oh, Tesla, tomorrow it's going to pump because this, that, or the other thing," that could be viewed as insider information.
By the way, there's no financial advice in this video.
Exactly, right? Why does everybody say that? Because they're all afraid when the regulations actually do come, when the SEC, right, and the FTC start actually focusing on these things, they want to be able to say, "Oh, well, I told them it's just for entertainment," right? I don't really think that, I say it myself, but I don't really think that that's protection, in my opinion. I mean, you're the attorney, so maybe you know better than I do. Obviously, you should, but I don't really think that that's protection, to say that. I think that in my experience, you have to have something harder than just saying not financial advice, right? Because it's become a joke, right? Everyone says it. So you're when they come after people, they can say, "You're saying this, but you're still giving out that information in a way in which you're recommending behavior," So
Yeah, that's like this other company. Well, actually, Gala Games. I was saying in the video a while back. They say everything's not an investment, but I said if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck,
exactly. For them, and I love Gala, by the way. I think that that's a really great project. I think the talent that they've acquired on their team is amazing. They got the guy from who created The Sims. They got the guy who created Farmville to make Townstar. Which is mind blowing to me, right? Because when like I look at companies and I look at the talent behind the companies are just non-existent entities. It's really the people, right? And the corporation protects the people from their own bad behavior. That's what corporations are for. And so when I look at this, I'm like, so you're telling me that the guy who was running this game that had tens of millions of users on Facebook's platform for multiple years and made tons of money is now going to make this crypto game that's literally the same exact thing, right? But now he's paying the players, and then you have one of the co-founders worked for the UN for many years, and he spent all this time in countries around the world seeing poverty and trying to figure out solutions to get people out of poverty. And he figured, play to earn is a way that I can help these people get out of poverty. And so this guy is helping run this company, Gala, and now they're creating all these solutions for people across the world to make money with a phone, because right now we're not there, right? We're not to a point where you can play Townstar on your phone, but eventually we will be.
I think some people do. I think.
Oh, really?
I haven't tried it, but
I've never tried it, and I was just assuming that it wasn't a thing. But eventually, like Axie Infinity, people in the Philippines, they're making a full-time living playing Axie Infinity, and they do that from their phones. So it's like that's the future, and I feel like anything that I can do to help my kids and to help others to understand these concepts and to gain from them and hopefully eventually help others to do the same, I'm all for that, And I actually, when I was referring to helping friends buy crypto in Dominican Republic, I've recommended to some of them, like, hey, you need to get in on Townstar, right? And I know that for some people over there, a $50 investment in like the little express truck, the NFT, it's not easy for everyone over there because the average salaries over there is like $200 a month. But and I know the coins are down right now, so the last time I checked, Townstar was like 20 cents. But eventually that'll probably be 50 cents, a dollar, whatever the case may be, and that can add up. Like in a week, if Townstar coin goes to $1 in a week, they're making $7.
It was $2 for a little while. Yeah.
Oh, is that $2? Okay, so $14 a week in a third world country. That means you're eating every day. You're feeding the family off of you playing a video game for about 5 minutes. You know what I mean? That's amazing because you can spend. Let's say it took them a half hour. You go on there, you spend a half hour. Sorry about that. My camera dies.
I think it's $100 now. You have to have Gala Gold, and then they give you the express truck. But you might be able to buy the truck on OpenSea or something like that.
Okay, okay. So when I oh that's right. I remember them saying that like the $50 was going away for the NFT. But either way, it's like just the idea you can get those they have those Steph Curry basketball courts.
I totally ignored that one, and I think I'm glad I did.
They were actually when they first came out, they were like 800, $900, and then they dropped to like 200 bucks, but they were still giving like 7 Town Star a day, you know. I think if you had both of them, if I'm not mistaken. Either way, it's significant. You know what I mean? Like now you're talking about if Townstar goes back to $2, now off of these little um, basketball courts, you're now making $14 a day. For you and I, that's not that big of a deal. For someone in the third world, that's a huge amount of money. You know, when you add it up at the end of the month, now they're realizing gains that they've never had before working a 40-hour week job. So I see the potential in that, and I think that it's very early stages because even if he, you know, the guy, I don't remember his name, but the guy who worked at the UN, if he wants to actually take this to the world and eliminate poverty or help people eliminate poverty, play to earn, they're going to have to come up with other systems to where these NFTs are more accessible so that people can use them to earn, you know, because right now they're prohibitively expensive
I don't
for.
know how they set their price. I've heard that they may be hiring economists, in the future to help
Yes,
them balance everything. But
I heard the
I don't
same.
know how they got the idea that like some of these NFTs are like $100,000. I mean, why didn't they say like $200? The most expensive we have, maybe 500. But how did they end up with $100,000?
Yeah, I don't know how they get those numbers. And they have there's another game, uh, Era of Empires, something like that. EOE.
Age of Empires, maybe. No,
No, no, no. It's
on Gala or
something.
somewhere else.
It's Gala, and it's something to do with
Legends,
Le-
Legends.
Legends.
I get them
Well,
mixed.
it's like a space game. I can't
Yeah,
remember the name exactly right now, but they have planets in these games, and one of these planets, Gala themselves, are selling it for $3 million. And
yeah. Same
I'm
thing with
like,
the
oh,
Mirandas, the cities, like the nobles and the
yes.
kings, all that.
Mirandus, I can totally see. Like my son, who is very much into like gaming culture, he's super excited about Mirandus. He's like, this game's gonna be huge. This is gonna make a ton of money, Dad. You'll see. And I'm like, all right, I don't see it, but okay, I'll trust
Well,
your word.
I've talked about this other is AI and crypto and on block or on chain blockchain. What's his name? On chain
On
gaming.
chain gaming. Yeah,
Those two guys have got like millions. It seems like in
yeah,
Miranda's,
yeah,
and they think they're going to make millions. So it's kind of
yeah.
I
Yeah,
don't
I
know.
think I think it's gonna be I think it's gonna be a hit. The moment my son saw it, he's not the excitable kind. He doesn't get excited very easily. He's very analytical. And the moment he saw it, he's like, "Oh, that's a hit game. That's gonna be a hit." And I'm like, "What? What?" He's like looking over my shoulder,
It's
and I'm like,
definitely a
"What? Why would
people
you say
game where
this?"
like Town Star you can play all by yourself,
Yeah,
and the others though you have to deal with other people and trade and like
yeah,
buy
the
things.
community,
It's not
the
even out
community
yet.
element. Yeah, my question is which one will be a bigger hit, whether it'll be Mirandus or Big Time, because I think Big Time, like I've bought some spaces on Big Time, and I got a friend of mine to buy some, and he's like looking at me and saying, "Well, are you sure? You sure about this?" And I'm like, "Look, man, not financial advice. I don't know. I can't tell the future. What I do know is I everything to me is about numbers. So I sit there and I go, these are the people who created God of War. These are some of the developers created Call of Duty. These people worked on Fortnite. All of those games made millions and millions of dollars, had millions of users. So what difference, why would they do worse with more experience and a better team and giving people the opportunity to earn money, right? So that's Big Time. And I'm like, why would they do worse at this project? And they're spending, millions of dollars, right? And so if you own land in the game, like if you imagine you own a piece of land in Call of Duty, how valuable would that be? You know what I mean? If you could own a piece of land in Fortnite, how valuable would that be? And so I'm like, this is just their next endeavor, and they're giving you an opportunity to own a piece of it. So it could go to zero, but I think it's gonna do well, because I sit there and I go, if they're only gonna have 600,000 of these NFTs, and they're going to release them over a number of years. And recently they only sold 60,000. Suppose you have 1 million users. Now you have 1 million people who all want access to 60,000 items. That automatically increases the value. That's the way I look at it. And so I said, I'm just gonna, I'm gonna buy that because there's a scarcity factor to it. When I look at coins, for the most part, I try to stick with things that have good teams behind them, right? So when I go looking at coins, I will go to like A16Z's website, right? And A16Z is, I believe, Ben Horowitz and Andreessen. And these are like big venture capital guys. Andreessen was the guy who created Netscape Navigator. And so they've been in the tech space for their whole careers. They know what they're doing. And now they have these huge companies where they lend out money. They're venture capitalists, right? And so I'm like, if they're investing into these projects, then these projects are at least worthwhile to look at their white paper, to look at, who the developers are. And some of them are great and they do well. And some of them are great and they do terribly, because I think it all boils down to marketing. How good is your marketing team? Like I invested in a coin called APY Finance, probably about a year ago now. And at the time, I was listening to BitBoy Crypto, right? Before I realized he just shills his audience and steals from them for the most part, So, so at the time it was like $5, right? And he's like, "Oh yeah, this is going to the moon or whatever." And I go and I look at the website and I look at the development team and I'm like, wow, these guys, they're supported by a bunch of important venture capitalist companies. I think this is a good project because what it does is it basically it automates farming. So it takes your money and then it invests it in a bunch of different projects automatically, and then it gives you the return.
Is it the
So I'm like, okay,
A16 site you're talking about?
this is APY Finance
Oh,
that I
APY.
believe, yeah. And I found them through BitBoy, but then I like validated them in my own mind by looking at who's the venture capitalist behind them, right? I'm not sure if A16 is behind them, but there was a bunch of other companies because A16 I'm just using as an example. But I look at the venture capitalists and I look at the developers and I look at what their experience is. Do they have a LinkedIn? Are they doxed? Do you know who they are? That kind of thing. And so then on top of that, BitBoy Crypto's out there talking about it. A bunch of other people that are huge on YouTube are talking about it. And I'm like, okay. And I jump in. I bought it $5. Today, it was at like 17 cents. So I'm sitting there going, yeah, I completely took a loss, right? But I look at the project and I'm like, this is a valid project. This is actually doing something that now a lot of other companies are coming out and doing as well, right? They're rebasing your profits. They're automating your farming. But the problem is that APY doesn't have any marketing, right? And at the time when I bought in, I didn't realize how important that was. There were a lot of concepts that I've picked up over time. And one of them is, it really doesn't matter how good the crypto project is. What matters is how good is their marketing, right? People right now are in a completely speculative state. So they're not buying based on the value of the item. They're buying based on the hype around that item, And a lot of projects that are absolutely garbage will make a ton of money because everybody believes in the hype. And projects that are actually solid and could go long term and do well will fail because they have no one investing in their project. And so once I realized that, I was like, oh, okay. And then I have a friend who told me, what is it? How is it? He says, you buy the hype and you sell the news, right? I believe that's how it goes.
Or buy the rumor.
Buy the rumor, sell the news, exactly. And he does this, like he invests continually into all of these terrible coins, like it's just so bad, right? Like the worst crap coins you can believe. He is like hunting for these things. And the reason why I mention all of this is because I was saying when I look at coins, I like to use the scarcity factor. Like I don't like coins that have trillions of coins, right? Or tokens. I don't like anything that has trillions or billions. I see billions of them, I want to stay away, right? I'm like, that's just too much. It's going to be hard to raise that market cap. But if you have a company that's burning their coins, right, or has some type of a deflationary mechanism, now I'm interested because I'm saying over time there's going to be less of that, which inherently can increase the value. assuming that the marketing piece is there, right? Because you can do whatever you want with your coin. If you don't have marketing, it doesn't matter. And this friend of mine, he goes on and he buys a coin. This is when Elon Musk was raging about Dogecoin all the time on Twitter. And this company comes out called Doge Army or something. It was terrible, right? It was so bad. And I come from like web design and SEO, and so I look at a website and I'm like, this is trash. I'm not putting my money here. And it was like the Doge dog, and then he had like a Che Guevara beret, and then they had another one with the Doge dog with an eye patch, and these were like representing the developers on the team. And I'm like, there's no way I'm putting money into this. And he's like, dude, just put $100. Just put $100. I was like, nope. So he puts $100. It goes and it pumps like on a weekend. He makes 16 grand.
Yikes.
I'm just like, come on, right? So then he does it again with some BSC based token. I'm trying to remember. Oh, Empire. That's what it was called. Empire. He puts about $300 into Empire, and then he calls me and he's like, "Hey, have you seen my Empire? Did you get Empire when I told you to get it?" And he'll usually tell me like about a month out. He's like, "Did you get Empire?" And I was like, "No, I didn't get around to getting it." And he's like, "Oh, well, you should have gotten it. Go take a look at what it's doing." And when I go look, he's up like 100 grand from his $300, right? So I'm like,
I'm waiting on.
holy moly, this is crazy. So I keep watching it, and at its peak, his $300 became $240,000. And so I'm asking him, "Did you get out? Did you get out? Did you sell?" He's like, "No, I'm waiting until it goes to 1 million." I was like, "Dude, it's not going to 1 million. Would you stop? Just sell, sell and get out." So he finally sold, but he only made like 75 grand because he just watched it and it just kept going down, 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 down. And I'm just like, why would you do that? You left 140 grand on the table.
Yeah, there's some good strategies like what where you sell like half and then it goes up, you sell another half or
Yeah,
third, whatever.
yeah.
Never,
I,
never take it all out, but at least get your initial investment back, right?
yeah, I mean, he only invested $300, so he definitely,
So,
like 200, 2,000 times his money, whatever it was. But I like to get out at 70%. So if I believe the peak is going to be, a dollar, once it's at 70 cents, I sell off at least half. And then I'll try and ride it up because I always tell my kids, like my kids, they're into crypto and they do their own buying and selling and things like that. And I try to tell them like, there are so many sell orders already in that by the time you see the price pumping and you decide you're going to now sell, you don't have an opportunity to because the liquidity isn't there because everyone is doing the same thing you're doing. The difference is they got in line before you. So set it up prior and know that at around 70% of what you expect it to go to, that's where you should get out. And they'll be like, "Oh, but you're leaving 30% on the table." No, you're not. You made 70%, on your money or whatever the number may be. That 30% is saving you from losing it all. It's saving you from missing the opportunity to actually be able to sell and take your profits. So
do you divide up and have like a hodl portfolio and then a sort of a trading gambling portfolio?
until recently, absolutely. That was basically how I did it. I would always tell people, look, Bitcoin isn't the best technology, but Bitcoin has all the marketing. You know what I mean? Like people talk about it across the world every single day. So I don't care if the technology is inferior to Ethereum or inferior to Polkadot or whatever coin you want to talk about is 10 million times superior to Bitcoin. That's great. But Michael Saylor isn't buying that. He's buying Bitcoin. You know what I mean? And he's not telling all his buddies on Wall Street to buy Chainlink. He's telling them to buy Bitcoin. And so Morgan Stanley used to say Bitcoin is a scam, don't do it. And now Morgan Stanley's buying Bitcoin. That's all I need to know. You know what I mean? Like when you go onto the stock market, you're not like, "Oh, I'm gonna go over here and buy this coin or this company stock that nobody's ever heard of before, and I'm gonna make a bag." That's not what people do. People go, "Oh, I'm gonna go buy some Tesla. I'm gonna buy some Amazon. I'm gonna buy some Coca-Cola." What do they buy? They buy what are the blue chips, right? And then the people who know, they'll play around with smaller items. But for the most part, people go where the money is. So crypto, why should it be any different? Just do what the banks are doing. Basically, they're the ones who have a lot of experience. They have a lot of money, and this is where they're putting their money. Which means, by default, they are making it valuable, right?
Follow the big money. That's one of my
Follow the big money, right? Follow the big wallets. When you see the beauty of blockchain is you can go into all these explorers and you can just look at wallets and their movement. You can see what they're doing. When you see what the big wallets are doing, just follow that. These are people who have more money than you're ever going to have, and they're making moves based on their experience and their education. So get an idea from them and more or less do that. So I'm very, very big on Bitcoin only for that reason, right? I'm not like one of these Bitcoin maxis that I'm like, oh no, it's going to be great in the future. That doesn't matter. You know, what matters is that people have chosen for Bitcoin to be the replacement to the US dollar, in my opinion. We're not there yet, but I believe that we will be there, at least in the sense of it being how people store their value, right? How people store their money. They may use whatever other stable coin to transact, but where they're going to keep the money as opposed to what their bank used to do, it's going to be in their Bitcoin wallet. And so I feel like that's, you know, my long-term play. Recently, I broke a rule of my own because I always tell people, you buy Bitcoin, you never sell it, right? But I guess it was around
Take
October.
profits too. The other rule is to take profits. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah, you can. I mean, you
swing
can sell
trades.
it and take your profits, and then you buy back in, you know, that kind of thing. But I recently sold some of my Bitcoin to go and buy strong nodes,
I was
and
going to ask
so
you if you got in there yet.
so I had that conversation with you. I guess it was around September, October, and you had said that you bought some strong nodes, and then you were like, "Oh yeah, they're like 12,000, 14,000." And I'm like, "Wow, that's pricey for an investment, you know, on something I don't know anything about, and I don't know if that's going to zero." But then I don't remember who it was that told me, and the next time they were like, "Hey, have you gotten a strong node yet?" And I'm like, "No." And I'm like, "You're the second person to talk to me about that, you know?" And so then I started doing my research on strong nodes, and I was like, "Wow, this is pretty impressive." And that's when I asked you about it, and you told me, "Oh, you know, look into Townstar." So then I went and I looked into Townstar. So then I went and I invested a little bit in Townstar. I showed it to my sons, and I went and I got myself some strong. And ever since then, I'm like so hyped up on nodes and passive income and crypto. Like that has
So how
been
many strong nodes did you get?
right now we're at two, and I'm looking to put, you know, at least another 20, 30
So are
grand.
you plowing it back in, or are you
Yeah,
like?
yeah. Right now I'm just compounding.
I did one of those things where I took out my initial, at least two-thirds of my initial investment.
Hmm.
And then after I get my final part back, then I
Hmm.
think like, maybe 50-50 compound and 50% just
Yeah,
take off.
yeah.
I know one
My
guy said he got it five for his wife for Christmas, five of them, like 50, I think. I mean, that's like a retirement income if it
yeah,
keeps going.
absolutely. That's the piece that actually has me so bullish on the nodes is the fact that I've been telling my wife I'm gonna retire you. You know, we bought a home, and I'm like, okay, the next step is to retire you now, so that she can just focus on. She's an author and she does crafting. Like I said, she has her own little business on that, and I said I'm gonna retire you so that you can just focus on your side businesses and make them actual full time businesses. And you know, like I was mentioning earlier, maybe have her manage a new e-com store for us, and then but not have her having to go and do a 9 to 5 or anything like that. And so I'm like, you know, between you and me, I would have to have something in the area of like 15, 16 strong nodes to like replace our income, you know. But it's not one of those, I don't believe it to be one of these things that you can say, okay, for the next 10 years, this is how we're going to live. I don't believe it to be that.
It'll be last,
I believe it has, you know, maybe a 2 to 3 year shelf life, you know. But what
And
I
not all nodes are nodes either. I learned that with
exactly.
ring finance. Ring.
Yeah, yeah. And I was, you know, when Ring was just starting to fail, I was just about to get into Ring because I was like, Neil is in Ring. Let me look into Ring too. But out of Ring came Thor nodes. So somebody forked
Yeah, I
Ring
haven't tried it yet.
and they created Thor nodes. And those have been doing really well. And it seems as though the developers are very much focused on avoiding what happened to Ring from happening to them. So they had really high rewards, and they recently slashed the rewards. And they're trying to like implement all of these ways in which they can make it a long term project. And they also supposedly have a contract with Phantom. So Phantom is a blockchain I'm very bullish on, because a lot of these gaming cryptos are trying to use Phantom instead of using Ethereum. So you have Gala and you have Phantom, in my opinion, are two of like the most important gaming cryptos. And so they apparently have a contract now with Phantom to validate their blockchain. And if that's the case, then they look better to me than Strong actually does, because Strong hasn't really figured that piece out. They were supposed to, I mean, I know they have Polygon, they're supposed to be validated with Polygon now. But they were also supposed to validate for Phantom. That was like in the rumor. And I think Thor, got there first and kind of took that business deal. I mean, they maybe end up both doing it, but my concern is, do you have an actual business? At this point, I'm already invested, so I'm going to try and ride it out to where it can go. But I want to definitely diversify. And so for me, like passive income crypto is super attractive. Like,
What do you think about the three, like Olympus Now, Time Wonderland? I got into Clima, that's been going down, but
I
things
was
like
I was
that.
very much interested in Olympus and in Wonderland, and then recently seeing all this stuff that Daniel Sesta's been doing and how he's run the DAO pretty much as a dictator, and he takes a guy who's been a convicted felon for theft and puts him as the CFO
Which one
of
is
the
that?
Treasury.
Which,
That's Wonderland.
okay, I knew they were having problems. I
It's
saw a video that said they were coming.
scandalous.
I saw one said they're coming back, but I haven't had time to watch it yet.
I wouldn't put my money into that. And I was very bullish on it, and I was like, okay, as soon as I'm done, putting all my money into Strong, because like I said, I want to make a pretty strong investment into Strong. I figure if I can just buy up, 8, 9 Strong, that'll put me at a place where I'm basically compounding and making another Strong every 10 to 12 days or something like that. So like you're basically getting 3 new Strong in a month. And that's where I want to take it, so that I can say, okay, I'll take 1 new Strong a month, and with that other money, I'll go diversify into Thor and into Drip, into Hex. Like there's all of these passive income plays in crypto that people may or may not be aware of. But now that I've realized what they offer, I'm like, this is like a stock market portfolio on steroids, because Drip, they're basically like a CD, like a certificate of deposit. But they have a component where you can do basically MLM, like you bring people in and you get referral rewards added to your certificate of deposit by having a team below you, right? By having a downline. I've never been, particular to MLM, but I find it very interesting because I see that the profits that people are making with that project are high. And then Hex is run by this guy Richard Hart,
Yeah.
and he's very, very smart. I think he's a bit narcissistic, and he's a little bit kind of crazy with how much he likes himself. But when you look past that and you just listen to what he's talking about, like the guy knows so much about crypto, and he just gives out little nuggets. You have to like watch a lot of his content to really understand a lot of the things he's talking about. But he has a project called Hex, and this thing pays out 39% a year if you stake into that project, right? That is crazy.
I have Hex, but I haven't staked yet.
Yeah, if you stake your Hex, you're making 39% on your money without doing anything, and the only thing
After
you
a
have to do,
15-year stake, or is that or the
it's
5-year one, or is that even for
I
one?
think it's yearly, but if you lock it, the longer you lock it for, the more it compounds and grows. And so I know that there's a lot of people who are doing it for 15 years. I can't really bring myself to believe that something in crypto will last 15 years at this point, right? Because there's not really anything that has that track record other than Bitcoin. So I'm like, I don't know, 15 years from now in crypto is like 1,000 years. That's crazy how much things change. But I could see myself doing 2 or 3 years, and they had that project PulseX.
The
And so,
sacrifice?
yeah, the sacrifice
And the stop?
PulseX.
I did a little of each. Did you?
Yeah, I did some, and I think that's crazy. Like they raised $1 billion for sacrifice,
Yeah.
huh?
It seems like too much, really.
It seems crazy, and then the thing that attracted me the most about that was the fact that they have this automated buyer in the DEX. So initially, the plan was to have an automated buyer in the DEX who would buy up like hundreds of thousands of dollars in coin on a daily basis. And so this would burn all these coins daily, regardless of whether or not people were using the platform. And so that sounded great. I was like, wow, so $1 billion isn't a problem because, for every dollar, there's 10,000 PulseX coins that are, purported to be created, that will be created. So now you're talking about hundreds of trillions of tokens, right? And I'm like, that'll never have value. You would have to burn so much of it. And when I heard about this automated buyer that would buy coin and then burn it, I was like, okay, that makes sense. Like maybe 2 or 3 years, it'll burn off enough that the thing actually gains value. If people aren't, if people don't adopt it as much as Richard Hart assumes they will. But now they said that's not a thing. They're not going to do that because if they were to do that, it would make it a security because then you'd be earning from the work of others, which is like the definition of a security. So they did away with that, and now I'm questioning it. Like, okay, how is this going to work then, to where you get rid of all of this coin and allow that token to actually have value? Because you can't have value when you have trillions and trillions of tokens. You know what I mean? Like, how is that going to be worth anything? And so we'll see. But I'm thinking, based on the history of Richard Hart and how he's been able to take his project and make it successful. He was early into Bitcoin. He was a miner. I think he was a coder. And now he's gone out, he's done Hex, and Hex has been successful as well. I take the approach of, I don't expect people who have been successful in the past to fail in the future. Will they? Yes. But generally speaking, I think people who have been successful in the past will repeat success in the future. That's my approach to looking at these things. So I like Hex because it gives you high return. Anchor protocol with UST gives you 20%, like I was saying. So when you have your money in a couple of these projects, you can easily, 5x your money in a year. And if you can do that, what'll happen in 10 years? You don't have to start out with a lot of money. You just have to educate yourself on how do these DeFi projects work, and there's some of them out there that are so crazy. Like now they're making all these DeFi games, like Police NFT, I believe it's called.
Oh yeah, the thief from the
Yeah,
police. I didn't.
yeah. I've seen a bunch of guys making money with that, and all these derivatives of games like that. Now they have one called Animal Farm that's coming out, and people are super excited about.
So back
So
to Townstar. Do you actually play Townstar and you put NFTs and earn daily yourself, or no?
initially I was playing on a daily basis, but then after a while I was like, you know what? I would much rather just buy the NFTs and then let someone else play, and
Yeah, they can
then
have rent in the future.
yeah,
Right?
yeah, that's my intent, is to just buy NFTs, let someone else play. Because the reality is that if it didn't have the whole reset factor, right? Because I had already built up a farm and I
And
was
play to earn, you have a month basically.
yeah, exactly. But then you got to start all over again. So I was like, ugh, I got to do a farm all over again from scratch. Like
It's
that
fun.
takes time. So my schedule's pretty tight right now. So I'm like, I can't do this. But my sons are doing it, and they're making their town star every day or whatever, and they're using it to make content as well. So they have a channel called Meta Twins Crypto, and they're making town star content over there. So I think it's really good because it's fun. When you do play, it is fun, right? For the entertainment purposes. And then the fact that you're making money when you're just going to play a game and have fun, I think that's fantastic. But it's not one of those things that you can say, at least not for me, that I can say, oh, I'm going to do this every single day, right? Because I normally don't play games every single day. So for me to play this game every day just to make $1 or two, it's not really feasible, right? So I'm like, nah, I'd rather just buy the NFTs. I know that this is going to be around for a couple of years based on who made it, based on the company that's surrounding it, and I'll just, either
I just basically log on and I have the auto sell script, let it run for
see,
30,
that's the
40,
thing. Like
and I
I've
turn it
seen,
off. And that's
yeah,
it.
that's the thing. I haven't set up scripts or anything like that.
Yeah.
And when I saw the videos that you made about that, I was like, wow, Neil's really advanced. Like he's doing all this fancy stuff to make things work for him. So that's really cool.
I think we've been an hour already. Maybe we're gonna have to turn this into a monthly show if
Oh,
everybody
I'm
wants.
down for that. That'd be
Yeah.
cool. That'd be cool. Yeah, if you could,
There, we
if you
could go
could,
another hour, but I think it'd be better to spread it out then, don't you?
yeah, that sounds good. That sounds good. We didn't even touch on how you got into crypto, so maybe next time we'll do that.
Okay. Let me just do it in. I don't know if I can. Can I end? Yeah, let me just stop the recording. See
Okay.
y'all next time. Thanks for watching. Say bye.
Bye bye now.